Welcome to the Wedding Workflow Podcast, the show for wedding professionals, engaged couples, or anyone involved in the wedding world. We'll be talking about everything from picking a venue, what to look for in a photographer, how to work with your DJ to get people on the dance floor, and how to handle all the craziness of planning a wedding. We hope you get something valuable from our show and our guests, and invite you to join us every Wednesday here at the Wedding Workflow Podcast. All right, everybody, we are back with another awesome episode, and today we have Rachel Irwin, owner and master certified wedding planner, and her company is With Love Wedding Planning.
That's correct. Hi,
thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Really
thank
appreciate
you for
it.
having me. I'm so excited. I could talk about wedding planning and weddings all day.
Oh, okay.
Won't limit it. I won't go on too much. But I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. We've been trying to get back into the groove, and we
trying to get more guests on there on the podcast.
More variety.
Yeah, I was so excited because I know Adam and I, we worked a wedding recently, and you were like, "Hey, I have this podcast," and I was like, "Tell me more. Let's chat about it." So I'm happy to be
now
here.
that wedding season's like over, I've been going through like, all right, who are the people I worked with this last year that were like really easy and fun to work with, and I'm like I'm compiling a list. So
that's awesome. Out here recruiting Adam. That's
and so tell us a little, kind of give us how you got into weddings and kind of your a brief backstory.
Sure, absolutely. So I started getting into weddings actually through venues. So I was an event host, you would say, at a couple different venues. So one of them was Hale Farm and Village in Bath, Ohio. And then another one was actually through the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. They have two venues within the park. That'll be Happy Days Lodge and then the Hines Hill Conference Center. So I also worked events and weddings at those locations. And then I also I had a lot of part-time jobs because I wanted to be in events. I also worked as an assistant coordinator for another local wedding planning company. And that's pretty much how I got started. But then once the pandemic happened and all events kind of went downhill, I needed to find something else to do. So total side tangent, I worked for a BMW dealership.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Random.
Wow, that is very random,
planning.
yeah.
And I was their BMW genius. I taught people how to use the technology
Oh,
in their
cool.
vehicles. So total side thing. But while I was there for about a year, I used that time wisely, and I'm so happy that I found the Certified Wedding Planning Society, which is previously known as the Bridal Society. They recently changed their name to be more inclusive, which we love.
Yeah.
So they are the biggest wedding planning certification program and the leading wedding planning certification program and largest one that there is in the world.
Wow.
And so pretty much I took their courses. So I became a certified wedding planner first. Then I took their design certification program. And then also they are partnered with another amazing company, Timeline Genius, who creates amazing wedding timelines and event timelines. Love them as well. And they had a course, so I became a Timeline Genius and took that certification. And then lastly, I took the Master Certified Wedding Planner course. And that is what really...
This is a lot of courses.
Wow,
this is a lot. I didn't think there was going to be like all those.
Oh,
Jeez.
absolutely. But the master course, so that was really what sprung me into creating With Love Wedding Planning, my current business. Because essentially it really helps you not only further your education in wedding planning in the industry, but pretty much teaches you how to start a business. And so I was unsure what I was going to do after the pandemic. Once events came back, I was like, am I going to go back to venues? Am I going to try to work for another wedding planning company? But through the help of the Certified Wedding Planner Society and the courses that I took, they assured me, you have the education, you have the passion for it, you should give it a try. You should start your own business. And I did, and
That's
I could
so
not be more
awesome.
grateful.
So you started your business in the midst of COVID then?
Pretty much. I was taking all those courses and using my time wisely, as I said, as best as I could. And then I didn't have a passion for selling vehicles or working on. I liked my time there, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. And so, once events started coming back, I quit that job, took about oh gosh, it was like 3 months or so to just like every day working on the website, working on the social medias, the packages, the just everything, logos, all the stuff I know you're both familiar with starting
that
a business.
stuff takes a long time. Yeah, it's a lot of
time.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
And then I started, and now so let's say I've been in the business for about 5 years, but with Love Wedding Planning just celebrated their first year. So now we're
That's
on to
awesome.
year 2.
That's so awesome.
That's,
How many weddings did you do this last year?
Okay, I think that was about 12, and that was more than I expected to
for your
get.
first year.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
And it's a combination of full planning packages, month of coordination packages, partial planning, which we might get into, but so not it was definitely not 12 full planning from start to finish. I think I would have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now so far for this next year, I have even more than that already booked. So and
really,
I'm still booking a little bit going into 2024.
Jeez,
so.
how do you find most of your couple? Like, how do most couples find you? Like, what's the?
Sure. Yes. So at the beginning, it was definitely word of mouth.
Yeah.
I actually, oh gosh, it is my partners, sisters, husbands, cousin. Pretty darn sure.
There you go.
Jeez,
I got that right. If they're listening, sorry if I didn't. They have their own wedding planning company and was needing some assistance. So I went ahead. That was a Saluti Events. They work, I believe, Cleveland, but they also do Buffalo as well.
Oh, okay.
And so I, helped and I assisted on a wedding there. And then she was like, "Oh my gosh, you did such a great job." And she was actually not taking any more clients, and she was like, "Everybody that I get, I'm gonna send your way."
Oh, that's a blessing.
And which was I
Huge.
could not be more grateful. So I got a couple from that. I would say 2 or 3 from that recommendation. Word of mouth, definitely, and then social media and like just Google searches. I tried my best to make sure that I was popping up on all of the Google searches and social media. So it's so hard. I am still learning how to be better about that. But yeah, so a little bit of everything is how I get my clients.
Well, congratulations. That's huge. That's a really big deal.
I just got started into Hootsuite and to keep track of every social media stuff, and it's a daunting task sometimes.
Yeah. There are a couple of those that I'm looking. I want to get into, but so and I should kind of take this the off season to do that. But I'm also planning weddings for next year, so I'll find time eventually.
Yeah. Well, I am super interested in the those packages that you mentioned. That the different ones that you go in. I've always been very curious on what a full planning thing looks like for a wedding planner. I've always been so curious on how that works. Do you book all their stuff? I mean, do they give you all their money and then you work with the budget? I've always been super curious on how that part works.
Yes, great question. So I will say that different wedding planners do it differently. So speaking about full planning weddings. So sometimes this is just from a planning perspective. Sometimes it's planning and design. Personally, for me, I have my packages separate. So I have a full planning package, and then I also have 2 different design packages. But talking about full planning, so at least how it works for me is these are clients that just got engaged, or maybe they've been engaged for a little bit, and maybe they just found their venue, but now they're realizing the scope of how much planning a wedding is, and they're like, we might need to bring somebody in to help us. So essentially, from the time that they hire me, my first step is if there are any contracts. So let's say they have their venue. I would ask for that contract so I can read that over, fine-tooth comb, make sure that I totally understand, and have the contact information and introduce myself. The big thing with full planning is single point of contact. So that starts at the very, very beginning of my contract with them. So if there are any, like I said, venues, or if they we hired just our photographer, I'm going to take over communication because I am going to be the one that needs to know everything. I don't want to miss a single detail, whether it's if something gets changed last minute, I want to know about it. And it also helps because the whole purpose of having a planner is so that, at least in my mind, the couple can just enjoy their engagement, because so many people are like, oh my gosh, I'm married or I'm engaged and I'm so stressed, and I don't want it to be that way. The year, 2 years that you are engaged should be fun. It really should be, and that's kind of where I step in. So I have a preferred vendor list that I use. These are professionals that I've worked with that I know have a great product, have a great service, whatever it might be, and I show that to my client. I say, so these are the professionals that you have to choose from, and I have 5, 6, 7. Companies per vendor category. So photographer, videographer, DJ, bakery, etc. And I explain that these are the people that I can guarantee their work.
Yeah.
And if they want to look at anybody that's outside, because there are hundreds of photographers and makeup artists and everything, that's fine. I just ask that I need to do some research on them, because if they hired somebody that is from a professional standpoint, you can clearly see, like, I don't know if they're going to be a great fit. I want to be honest with them. Yeah. But before hiring, obviously, we talk about budget. I have like a budget, sheet that they fill out, like what they think they're going to be, what they're prioritizing, how much they think they're going to be, paying for each vendor. And then we go over that, and based on, we've obviously chatted a little bit about what their like vision is, and I make sure that what their vision is and what the money that they're willing to put forth
realistic.
Is realistic.
Yeah.
And
is that hard at all? Is there challenges usually in that, or are people pretty spot on, do you think?
I would say, and I would say most couples are like, Rachel, I have no idea. And I'm like, it's okay. You've never done this before. You've never planned a wedding. So put down what you think. And if there's no right or wrong answer, there's just what is realistic and what is not.
Yeah. Because I think it can be shocking how expensive
things
are in the wedding industry. Because it's like whatever you is normal is like, it's usually way more than that.
Yeah. And something I've noticed is like the closer people get to their wedding, the more like random things either they see on social media, or they're like, I want this. Like,
dude, when I got married, like the month leading up, I just felt like the card never stopped swiping. Like, there was like so many different things and then things you forget about and all that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So talking about budget early on is going to make sure that you are prepared for what it could be, and then it also helps me because I want to make sure that I'm keeping my couples within their budget. I want to know what they're thinking, and some clients ask, like, well, they get nervous when I ask about budget. They're like, well, why do you need to know that? Do you there are some planners out there that take how much they pay themselves is based off of a percentage of the budget of the couple. Okay. And that's not how I work. I have flat rates because I don't think it's fair to, like, even if you're spending like more money on your wedding, I still have the same job. I just might be able to recommend a more expensive florist, or like, okay, we can go and look at like drapery, and we can look at all this other stuff. And so I don't think it's fair to charge more. So that's why.
I have so much respect for that. I really feel the same way about those type situations of like, like it's always bothered me, like when company, like they, I don't know, hide their prices and stuff like that. And like they charge more depending on, what venue they're at, and it's like, just because somebody might have more money or putting more money towards something doesn't mean that
I'm still doing the same thing.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you should take more. Yeah.
Right. I treat everybody the same, but so after that, and we understand their budget, if they paid for like a design package on top of it, then I have a whole design questionnaire we go through. I create a design vision packet for them that we get to go over, so they can be like, oh, amazing. Like is exactly
I'm interested in this design portion. Could you go a little bit more into that? So what is all included, and like what does that mean, design?
So once again, it kind of depends on the planner, whether I will say some planners love design. They're all about designing a wedding, and some are not so much. I come at it I'm a very big logistics person. That's why I got into wedding planning. I love the logistics and the planning. Yeah. And I do love design too. But the way I come about it is from a logistics point of view. So I have a questionnaire, and if any of my couples are listening, they'll be like, yeah, it's a long questionnaire. And we go through it together, and I have examples of things. So we start from the very beginning with like attire for their bridesmaids, groomsmen, whoever. It goes into florals, for what do we want our bouquets to look like? What are the boutonnieres, the corsages, centerpieces? What are we doing for ceremony florals? And every single category, linens,
backdrops,
yes, like place settings, tablescapes, everything. We go through it all. And then I usually ask, like, most people have a Pinterest of some kind, and I take that into account, everything they talked about, and then I compile it into I use Canva.
Oh, yeah. Canva's awesome.
Love Canva. Oh, my gosh.
Canva's the best.
And I put it into, like, a categorized vision packet, I like to call. And so I take a lot of time making that, and then we get back on another Zoom call or meet in person, whatever it is, and then I show it to them. And sometimes, I give them other ideas, like, oh, I know you said that you wanted a Chiavari chair, but what about like a cross back? Do you like this? And they're like, oh, actually, I like that a lot better. Like, let's do that instead. And so then I edit from there. And then after that, now that we know what their design is and we know what, where their budget is, I am able, I show them the preferred vendor list, and a lot of these, a lot of the vendors there, it's not like all high end, you have to be having a $50,000 wedding, whatever it is. They are able to work with multiple, like, different kinds of budgets.
Yeah.
So I'm not forcing people, you have to use this list and you're going to be paying $1 million. No, not what we're about. And then they say, okay, great. I'm interested in these people. I usually say, give me your top person you're interested in, then your second person in case they're not available. I reach out to these people. I set up meetings. We meet, look at proposals together. I chat with the couple, but I am the one that is always in charge of, like, emailing and getting back and forth. As far as, like, budget management, I don't personally do that. I'm thinking about maybe doing it in the future, but normally if there's anything payment, like, related, it's, we're copied on those emails. They're taking straight from their bank account, unless there's a couple that's just like, here's my card, pay for it. I want this, pay for it. I can do that, but normally it's just they take care of the payments. And then from there, I go to meetings and I, help make plans and timelines, go over, like, save the dates and invitations, and we just
So
plan.
a full service package is no joke. Like, that's you're pretty much literally planning a whole wedding.
Yes.
How do you handle do you handle invitations, or do you kind of outsource that?
Sure. So I have lots of different, like, packets, again, that kind of go into full depth of different topics, such as save the dates, invitations, and the etiquette that goes along with it. And so once it's time to start looking into, like, okay, great, you should usually send your save the dates between 12 months and 6 months before, sometime in that range. Also, but depending on if it's destination, I could go on. Anyway, once it's time to talk about it, then I usually go through that information with them. And there are a couple of different companies, whether they're local or, like, online companies, that help with all wedding paper and invitations and save the dates. And once again, depending on their package, sometimes they're like, great, well, they take it from there, or I can kind of sit down and, kind of design it with them. My biggest thing is just making sure the etiquette is correct, what you should and should not put on a save the date or invitation. I am a big etiquette person, but I always say to my client, like, this, if they ask for advice, they're like, what should I do? What's the right thing? Like, that's what I hear a lot. Like, what do people normally do? I'll tell them the etiquette behind it, but I always say, this is what etiquette says, but you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to be a stick in the mud. I want you to have it the way you want it, but yeah, so that's how I do those invitations.
That is so cool. Yeah, that's a big job. Planning a whole wedding. How soon does someone need to book you for you to do that big package?
Yeah, like, you would be the first person that they reach out to.
Yes, highly recommend, especially, if you are recently engaged and you're thinking, I need somebody to help me out, your wedding planner or coordinator should be the first person you reach out to. If we're talking full planning, it can range. I would say anywhere, like, from 2 years to, like, 1 years out is it is typical, what I typically experience. But then if we're talking about, like, month of coordination, it can be maybe up to, like, maybe a year in advance, or it can be, I would say at the very least, personally for me, 2 months before. So, like, 8 weeks, which people have a lot of questions about what month of coordination is.
Yeah, because I want to talk about which package is, like, your most popular.
I would say, and I think because of this being like my first year, and and from like the recommendations that I got, I think month of is actually currently my most popular, although I'm getting more full planning and partial and design packages, but month of is my current most popular.
I just feel like you hear a lot about month of, like coordination package. It like seems like that's a really popular thing that a lot of couples benefit a lot from. So since that's the most popular, what does that, is that basically you take all that and just like shorten?
So it's similar. So, and I guess I'll start off by saying this. I know there was one thing that I wanted one of the things I wanted to talk about was this day of coordination or day of coordinator thing. So a lot of couples, reach out about, I just need day of coordination. I've done all the planning. I'm totally, my partner and I are very capable of doing all of the planning. We found a lot of our vendors already, and we just need you to show up day of and make it all work. And I would like to have a PSA about all of that. So if a day of coordinator worked or existed, that would mean that there was a magical being that could show up on your wedding day and know everything. No prior communication, just show up on the wedding day and be like, oh my gosh, I totally know the timeline. I know the order. I know everybody's names. I know, all the locations. And as far as I'm aware, that magical wizard-like being does not exist. We need previous communication and information in order to, make sure that your wedding day goes according to plan the day of. So day of coordination or a coordinator does not exist. But what does exist is month of coordination. And so, and this differs between each planner. But for me, at the very least, I would need about 2 months to, get your contracts, read those over, contact your vendors, ask them questions, and to pretty much get myself up to speed, have a timeline draft, go through that with the couple, figure out all the things that they might have missed without knowing. And then as we're getting closer, confirm all, dates and arrivals of things, make sure that the couple has like everything with their, their floor plan, their seating chart, their guest list, all like food catering, any like final walkthroughs, final meetings, and then, go to a rehearsal, like the ceremony rehearsal, run that, and then the day of show up. And so all of my packages include day of coordination, but there is not just a package that's just like Rachel magically shows up and knows everything.
And figures it out.
So month of coordination sounds like pretty much like you're hammering all the logistics, like 100% logistical.
Big logistics. And there are couples, at least, and I don't know if every planner does this, but sometimes there are couples that are like, we're very hands-on. We want to do a lot of it ourselves, but we want a little bit of guidance. And we want you to help out with like timelines and making sure we do everything correctly, and then day of coordinate our day. And so, we're getting married in 2024, but we know we're going to want you, so we're booking you. But I probably won't be doing a lot until we get closer, but they want to secure me for their day. But then there are couples that are like, my wedding's in 4 months and I could really use somebody. And then it's like, all right, let's give me all the things and I will do it. And
I thought of this analogy with a couple recently where it was like, your wedding is kind of like building a kite. Like, you're, working really hard on this either. And like when you have a wedding planner, like they're the one that's like designing it, making it work. And like there's different ways to fly that kite on the day of. Like you can do all the preparation you want, but when it comes to executing, like knowing like, all right, like the winds are a little crazy today. How do we fix this?
That's deep, Adam.
It like just came out I was like thinking, I was like, what is it like? Because I'm like, the preparation is a lot. But when you show up the day of, like there's so many different factors like that you have to just you have to be prepared to, work with and be flexible. And for some reason, kite came to my mind.
I like it. I like that, bro. Man, look at you. That's really good, bro.
Poet.
But and because, one of the things like you were saying, like if you were to just have somebody that just has with no prior knowledge show up the day of, and then a lot of weddings like we go to, there is no like overall coordinator. Maybe like the venue has somebody that's kind of like opening doors for the bride and that kind of stuff. But We always talk about on this podcast,
Listen,
like,
this is something
don't
I
trust
get.
them
My
to
pet peeve,
run the entire
man,
thing.
is like, listen, please, anyone listening, a
Anybody.
venue coordinator is not the same thing as a wedding coordinator. I feel like they try venues so much. Like, I feel like try to put this on, like, they're like, oh, well, it comes with wedding coordination. No, it does not.
Yeah.
It does not.
Yes, that was a big thing. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, so I'm so glad that we're on this.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I get heated up about
yes,
that.
That's a huge question that I get. Like, well, my venue has a venue manager or a venue coordinator or an event coordinator at the venue. Like, so do I really need you? The answer is yes, for a few different reasons. So the biggest thing is it might seem like they work for you. They don't work for you. They work for the venue. And the responsibilities that they have. So, for example, if we're talking about pre-wedding day, planning. So your venue, whatever it is, manager, coordinator, they're not helping you hire people. They are not going to meetings with your baker or your, DJ or whatever it might be. They might they might be helping with like, okay, how many tables do we need? What sizes? Okay, if they help with linens or chairs, if they have those, or
Make
if
sure
they like
nothing
outsource.
catches on fire.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I feel like if somebody needs to know like how to turn this light on,
Right,
like,
yes, lighting, temperature, things
Dimming
like
the
that.
lights, that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They know everything to do with the venue. They don't know what your timeline looks like. I mean, they might be like, okay, when is dinner starting? Okay, like what's the order of things generally? And so, but then on the wedding day, they're just there to make sure that their staff is doing what they need to do. Like they have a lot on their plate.
Yeah, because even with the vendors, I mean, I would say 95% of the time, they're not reaching out to us to see like what time we're coming or anything. I mean, it has happened, but it's very few times. Very few.
And when there is no like planner like over the schedule, I go in assuming that either me, the photographer, or the videographer have slightly different timelines.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like print them and I'll bring them and like I double check. I'm like, all right, are we all on the same page? What do you guys have?
And then it's not fair because then it pretty much, if there is no planner or coordinator, usually the DJ, photographer, or videographer acts as the wedding planner, which shouldn't be the case because you have your own huge job to do. You don't get to focus on that. But so I do say that, yes, you do need a planner or coordinator at the very least, because my job then on the wedding day is to, just like with all the other vendors, collaborate with them. They know their venue the best. I don't know the nooks and crannies and all the rules of their venue. And so I am, talking with them at the very least, a month out, and being like, okay, great. This is the order that we have. This is the floor plan that we wanted. Does this work for your venue? We have candles. Do we need votives? Are we allowed to do a sparkler exit? We want the lights to be dimmed at this time. Was that going to work for you? And so I am trying to always make everyone else's lives and jobs easier on the wedding day, vendors and venues and couples and families included. And so that's why you need somebody, because they're like, just like you said, they're not your wedding planner.
Is a wedding, like say you go and you're doing a wedding, does it ever feel hard? Like, does it ever clash with some like venue that is like someone that is like the coordinator? Like,
sure.
Because it's like you're in charge, but like they're in charge of the venue, like type thing.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Is it ever tricky?
It can be. I just all I can make sure that I do is that I communicate with them as early as I can, as what the package allows, and make sure that they understand like we're working together. And I think towards the beginning there are some, and I wouldn't by no means all, but there are some venues, managers, coordinators, whatever it might be, that they might have a little pushback. And all that tells me is that unfortunately they have had probably a negative experience with a planner. And that makes me feel very, very sad, because I want to guarantee that I'm going to make their lives easier. They know their venue the best. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just trying to help them. So that was, if I can ask you guys a question, what is, and it can be positive or negative, what's your experience, would you say, with planners and coordinators? All good, not so great?
I think like when it is like because there, like you said, there are different types. Like when it is just a venue coordinator, and I try to like make sure, I'm like, all right, if they say they have a coordinator, is it a full blown wedding planner? Right. Is it just someone that's gonna be like making sure some things are happening? Like there's some even just venue coordinators that are amazing. They go like I feel like above and beyond. Like the just taking care of the venue. But then there's some I'm like, I'll see them when I first get there, and then I probably won't see them for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know where they're at.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm running the show. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a really great question because, yeah, this, anytime I've ever worked with an actual wedding planner, like yourself, it's been a really great experience. Sometimes with venue coordinators, there's some things that I haven't always loved. Like one of my things I never really loved was how like if a venue coordinator like wants the DJ to be like basically like security, like telling people what they can and can't do. That's that gets.
Yeah.
I think those are kind of tough.
Yeah.
But no, as far as wedding planners, but I think it's an interesting question that you asked because I have heard of other DJs that like don't love working with wedding coordinators, and I find that to be very surprising. I have an opinion about it, but because I think that because we talk about this sometimes, and sometimes the DJ world, I think sometimes DJs can it attracts sometimes a egotistical person sometimes, or like somebody that wants to be in control, and so I think letting if your person is if you're like that, giving away that control to a wedding coordinator, I'm assuming would be hard for that person. But I just have always looked at it as like, wow, they make the day so much easier. And like, I think it's amazing. Like, it was like a breath of fresh air if we're getting to work with a wedding coordinator. So I think it depends on the person.
Yes, no, I would agree because I'm really just trying to help. I'm not trying to say that you don't know what you're doing or that I'm just trying to make your lives easier and everybody's lives easier.
And unfortunately, DJs, we are very used to
taking
filling
over.
in for these coordinating job, for
that's
the day.
Why we do a pretty like detailed timeline on our own, and a lot, like before each wedding I try to print it out and at least 2 or 3 copies to kind of make sure if anybody wants to see what's going on, this is what I have.
Yes, no, very, very helpful. Thumbs up. I was like, oh, awesome. Yeah,
but I love that, man. Like a wedding coordinator, like, oh yeah, you don't tell me when to do that. Like, it's like you don't know. You can just really fully focus on just the art of DJing.
Your job.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
It's we have a couple like wedding planners that recommend us, and when I work with them, I'm like, it's the more I work with somebody, the more I'm like, oh, this is gonna be easy. Like it's gonna be a super smooth day.
Yeah, and why I know that this is an issue too is because at bridal shows sometimes and things, people have asked the question, do you work well with a wedding coordinator?
Yes.
And I think that's very interesting. So obviously this is out there, like a known thing that like this is like a clash thing. And so I'm curious to you, like which vendor do you feel like is it the DJ that sometimes is the hardest person to work with?
I think I would say maybe.
Yeah.
Might be. And once again, it depends. And I think it comes from what we talked about. Yes, one being a fight over control, which is not what I'm trying to do.
Right.
But sometimes that's what they might think it is. And then another time is sometimes I would find, because I'm definitely more of a type A person, planner, logistics, communication, like all that stuff. And then I find sometimes, and it's totally fine, that DJs can be a little bit more relaxed, which I love. And I pride myself on being able to adapt to different people, read people. Yeah. But when someone isn't able to communicate back with me in a timely manner, and for some reason that's usually a DJ, I'm come on, person.
Like those Facebook groups and stuff. I mean, how often do you see like, oh, my DJ hasn't gotten back to me in like 2-3 weeks?
Months.
It's like, are you months? Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like,
yes, exactly. So that's why, and I talked about it before, the preferred vendor list, because I don't want, whatever package that I have, my clients get to use my preferred vendor list. This is a list of professionals I've worked with, have experience with.
They're tried and true.
Tried and true people. And no one pays to be on the list. It's just like, no, I just like you and I like working with you. And that's so helpful because the couple doesn't need to do Google searches or Instagram searches and guess like, oh, I hope my DJ is going to show up. Or
they don't have to like wonder like,
Right.
And that's the thing that like nice thing about us is like we kind of built like a group of DJs. So like there's been times where like somebody gets COVID or something crazy happens in their family, and we're able to kind of pick up, like
those are things that and as time has gone on with the company, I figured like is even more and more important that I'm realizing like to have that community like in a company that like has a lot of backup plans in place.
Right. Yes, exactly. And also it makes kind of we were talking about a little bit, it makes our lives easier because if we're working a wedding with people we're all familiar with, then it's just such a sigh of relief, because you're like, oh my gosh, I know the day is going to be amazing. And that's what's helpful, what my clients are happy about, because I'm just like, oh yes, I've worked with that person, totally familiar. And they're like, oh my gosh, okay, great. So this is going to go well. I'm like, it is, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
it cuts out a lot of like, because, you're putting together basically a team. And like me and him, we both worked like churches. And so like the Sunday morning services and stuff, like you're already working together with a team that's worked together for, months or years. And there's still some things that can go wrong, but you have to be able to trust those people to like see the problem and fix it. And when you're working with a group, when you put a team of, DJ, photographer, videographer that may never have worked together before, there's not that familiarity. And so anything that might come up, like if there's not that shorthand that you get with certain people, then it just, there's one less thing that can go wrong if you're working with people that you know.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing the difference that it makes. And I mean, for me, that was the whole vision of that the Headtrauma entertainment stuff is because we have a group of like 13 people now that all we work together very frequently now. And then it's just the fact, like, even being able to send a quick text and be like, hey, what are you doing? And like, what I'm saying? Because you can.
Right.
It's like, that goes a long ways, know?
Like, we had like, or even a situation like earlier this year, we had our photographer, videographer, he had gotten the wrong address. And so he ended up like 40 minutes like, because they had switched their venue like kind of last minute. And so he called me and he's like, hey, where are you? And I'm like, I'm in Cleveland. He's like, I'm not in Cleveland. And so like,
but that kind of saved the day though, because I don't know how, I mean, or he would have had to tell the bride and probably stressed her out. But in this case, it was able to be taken care of.
I quickly sent him like just my like location. I was like, he was like, all right. Like, it was pretty quick and easy to figure out. And
I think it's great you have that list, and it would make a lot of sense for any couple, I'm sure, to pick somebody off that list, because I'm sure the same as we feel with that. If you're working with similar people that you are familiar with, that's got to be just all the better.
All the better. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Works out. So I always ask this thing, like, what's one thing that you bring that is like in your like emergency kit, or like something that's essential that you use at like every wedding?
Oh gosh. Okay. So yes, emergency kit. I have so many things. I have a list of that goes on and on of everything. I would say the boring, most commonly used thing is like scissors or like a lighter. But the ones that are like probably like they're like, oh my gosh, you have this, would be like spray on deodorant or like snacks. I have like gluten-free and nut-free snacks.
There you
Anybody's
go.
just like, oh my God, I really can't wait until like lunch gets here. Can I have something?
Or like they're drinking very heavily and you're like, you need some food.
I've got some liquid IV for you as well. Or there's, oh my gosh, there's a lot. I pretty much took a...
No joke, you really do carry liquid IV?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's
I'm like, someone's hurting from the night before after like the ceremony rehearsal. I was like, I always tell people don't get too rowdy, but I know that they're going to. So I was like, great, I think you could use this.
Oh yeah. That's good. I've seen those in like, like some venues, they'll do little baskets for stuff. I've seen those a lot lately in that little kit in the bathroom is the liquid IV.
Oh, really? That's cool. That's a good idea. There's something about weddings we always talk about. It's just like, it does just bring out the animal in people sometimes. It does.
It does.
People just go hard at weddings.
They do.
Sometimes.
They really, really do. So I had a question that I'm interested in. So have you been in situations where you have to like, you are known in advance about like maybe family drama or family issues that you know ahead of time, and like, do you help facilitate that to make it the best it can be?
Sure. So yes, I have definitely dealt with different family dynamics. Every family has one, whether it is family or like wedding party. And I usually talk about this pretty early on, even in my initial consultation when I'm talking about contracts. I'll start with this. In my contract, I have something called the Zilla clause.
That's awesome.
See where this is going.
That's awesome.
Okay. And how I talk to my my couples about this is that 9 times out of 10, the Zilla is not going to be within the couple. It is going to instead be a momzilla or a dadzilla, auntZilla, maid of honor, best manzilla.
Yep.
Essentially somebody that is getting in the way of the planning process.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think my guy's falling off. There we go.
Or they think it's their day.
Right. They think it's about them.
I have always said it too. Like, I have not really dealt with I don't even know really many bridezillas, but momzillas are so real.
And so I put that in the contract. So I pretty much say, if we are no longer working well together, if someone's getting in the way of the process, I have the right to terminate the contract. And usually that brings up something. They're like, oh God, I gotta let my mom know about this, or I gotta let Aunt Susan know, or whatever it might be. And a lot of the times, once again, depending on the package, sometimes, if we're going to tastings, I do interact with the, parents or grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever it might be earlier on. And so I kind of get to know people a little bit more, but especially for month of coordination, when I'm really not meeting with people until, the day before maybe, and I'm meeting, the mom that I've heard so much about. I always try to have an air of like, let's remember why we're here. We're here because we love these two people, and this is their day. I love meeting families and, wedding party members, love interacting with them. And I will always be polite and kind and courteous, but at the end of the day, my clients are the couple. Mom and dad are not who are not my client truly. And so I am always going to advocate for what they want. I'm always going to double check with them, like, hey, is this okay with you? Your mom's saying she wants this to be changed or that to be changed. And I try to have a very open attitude about hey, let me know if you think someone's going to be an issue, or even if it's somebody you think someone's going to try to stop the wedding, crash the wedding, or maybe drink a little bit too much. I want to know these things. Send me a name, a picture. I want to know because I do not want them getting in the way of your day. But so in short, I'm happy to help out, and on the wedding day I've definitely calmed down a few people to be like, hey, everything's fine, you just got to trust me. You just got to trust me. And sometimes that's hard. Usually it's harder for not the couple, it's those outside people that are just like, but it's my daughter's big day.
Or I hear this a lot, I'm paying for this, and I'm like,
yes.
Well, and that's another reason why I love the wedding coordinators, because as a DJ, those situations are not that fun to deal with.
No, but it's nice to have that third person to just be a buffer in a way, to be, that's something else I ask, who is contributing to the budget, is it just an amount of money, or are they paying for a certain vendor or thing, and then do they want to be a part of the planning process, but more importantly, do you want them to be a part of the planning process? And we just kind of go with the flow and figure out what's going to happen. But I'm just always there to, like I said, advocate for my couple, because at the end, this is the reason that we're having this day is because of them.
So, that's true. That's a good way to think about it, because and it's usually something for DJs, I always try to ask, especially when it comes to music, I'm like, who's the guy that's going to request some crazy off the wall stuff? Who do I need to
Always one. There's always one.
Never make sure to guard a mic from, that kind of stuff.
Mic guarding.
There's some people that think they are entitled to the microphone on the day of, and you're like, you're on the no mic list.
If you're not on my timeline that you're giving a speech, you're not.
So that's amazing to have. So do you attend rehearsals too? Is that kind of part of your planning?
Yes, definitely. So like I mentioned, all of my packages come with day of coordination, and that does include ceremony rehearsal. So I usually require that is in the space that we're going to be at. We're not practicing, in a backyard. We're practicing in the space that we're going to be. And then usually the officiant is present as well. And whether it is, maybe a wedding at a church, or if it's a wedding elsewhere where it's just an officiant, I always attend. If it's more of a church wedding where there's a priest of some kind, maybe a minister, then they usually take the reins. But my biggest thing, and what people don't realize is so hard, is the processional and the recessional. And so I go over that as many times, but then as far as the actual ceremony goes, I leave that to whoever is officiating the wedding. I also take this time to go over okay, everybody remember, the gentlemen are getting ready here at this time, ladies are meeting up here, parents, this is what you're doing. And just a lot of reminders. I also send through Timeline Genius, I am able to send text messages
Oh, that's
actually
awesome.
to
Yeah.
my to actually anybody. It can be vendors or wedding party. I usually use it for my wedding party and my family members, because a lot of the times they'll come to the rehearsal and they'll be like, "Are you the one that texted me?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, that was me."
Yeah.
A text to let them know, like, the rehearsal is starting in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Or you need to be at the church in 30 minutes.
That's
And
cool.
those text messages go on to the next day when it's like, you should be arriving at
That's so
the
cool. Are
getting
they
ready
like automated
location.
or like you have to use
I go ahead. Yeah, I set them up
Yeah.
on Timeline Genius.
That's
I'm able
cool.
to set those up, and then those get sent out.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's really
yeah.
cool.
And especially since bridal parties, they're very aloof the day of. So, or like
Yeah.
that whole weekend,
Mhm.
like even just being a part of a bridal party, like I know, like when you show up, you're like, nothing. It's just I'm just here.
Yeah. When do I need to be dressed?
Yeah.
If I have to give a speech, when can I start drinking?
Yeah.
That is what they need to know.
When
And I
start
get
drinking.
it. I
It's good
totally
to
get it.
Have those clear,
Yeah. Mhm.
defined time.
And that's with also shout out to Timeline Genius is wonderful. So I'm
Yeah.
just gonna sing their praises. I'm also able to set up individual timelines. So I don't know if you
Oh,
remember,
that's-
but
yeah.
instead of me sending you my 20 long page,
Yeah. Sometimes those are hard to like. I'm like, all right.
Oh yeah, because
where
a lot
do-
of wedding
where am
planners
I
do
at in here?
send those. Like I know I've gotten those before where they start the day before at like in the morning, and I'm like, oh boy, we gotta
where
okay.
do I come in?
Yeah.
And so once again, because I'm trying to make your lives easier and wedding party and couples' lives easier, I am able to very, very efficiently with Timeline Genius just make a tailored timeline for the DJ, for the baker, for the florist, for the wedding party. So it literally says, okay, I got to be dressed here. This open dancing starts here. Okay, then my responsibilities are done. And it's just, you then get to focus on your job.
Yeah.
And there's some, vendors that are like, no, I want the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. It's going to be about 20 pages long if
Yeah.
you're working with
Yeah.
me. But it just, you don't need to sift through, and you can
And I
just
feel
find
like
your stuff.
yeah, I know this keeps coming up, and I just want to like reiterate one time, like whoever couple is listening, is just like a wedding coordinator really does help the other vendors just do their job that you like hired them to do. So we're able to do it truly at the best of our ability. And I just think that like is something that really is really huge
Yeah.
and really important. And you're gonna get the best. I mean, you're always gonna get the best that we can do, but like that, I mean, because then you just get the focus. The focus is 100% there.
Absolutely.
And I saw you had said that in the end, a wedding planner can actually save you money. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. So that's another thing is I hear from, couples like, planning a wedding is already so expensive. Like, how can I actually afford a wedding planner? Like, I don't know if I can, or a wedding coordinator. And so I tell them that we can actually save you money in 3 different ways. So first is time. Time is money. And by time, I mean a couple different things. One, already talked about preferred vendor lists, so they don't need to spend so much time Googling and researching and calling.
Yep.
They just have a list of people that they're like, okay, amazing. I have 6 different, bakers to choose from, and it makes it easy, and they know they're going to do a great job. There's also a lot of smaller tasks that I'm going to be doing for them that they're not going to need to worry about. So, for example, with some of my packages, it comes with RSVP tracking. So whether you're doing that online or you're doing a physical RSVP, I can take that over. I also provide checklists that tells you each month what you need to be focusing on. So I know a lot of couples are like,
That way it breaks it down into
Yeah.
manageable chunks.
they're working on something that
Yeah.
doesn't need to be done until like the month of, and I'm like, focus on the things like that we're at month 12, focus on those things. And so because of that, they're not guessing what they're needing to do. So time is money. Another way is going to be with discounts and like promo codes. I do get discounts from a couple of the different vendors I work with.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just like, oh my gosh, I'm working with a wedding planner. You're going to make my lives easier. I give you 15% off.
Yeah.
Or just from being a wedding planner, being in different programs and like paying for like subscriptions to things, you get discounts.
Yeah.
And those are always things that I give to my clients. I'm never holding anything. If I can save you money, I want to. I am not oblivious to the fact that you are spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for one day. I understand that is ridiculous a little bit. So if I can save you money, I'm going to. And the last way is going to be the time, the money that you are spending on your wedding, I want to make sure it goes to good use. So because I'm going to be reading through all of your contracts with a fine tooth comb and making sure that you don't like miss any detail things or make sure that your timeline works out, I'm going to make sure all of your money that you are spending goes to good use. We're not making any mistakes here. We're not like, oh, we forgot about this and now we need to pay an outrageous amount of money for this last minute thing, which we could have paid for before and could have gotten, whatever it might be. We're not wasting money here.
Yeah. I mean, I know I said in the beginning, like at the end, like it was a lot of swiping the card and stuff. And I think, if I would have known about those things ahead of time or somebody that would have, third party, like this is what you need and all that stuff, if we really needed it, we could have bought it way sooner and probably found it cheaper.
Yeah.
Not being desperate just to get it here as fast as we can. Or discounts or just anything, or not, maybe we just didn't need it at all. So, so I think just firsthand, I know that would have saved money.
And even like just tips and tricks of the trade, like, how can just like ways that we can save you money, like with, flowers. Like some people are like, okay, well, I have my ceremony florals and then I have my, it's cocktail hour and then reception and whatever. I'm like, why don't we reuse things? Like, like we can, ceremony's only going to be for a half hour, an hour. Let's, with my team, because also with all of my packages, you get an assistant coordinator that I bring. So it's not just me. My assistant coordinator and I can move those for you. So great. How much money is that saving you? Hundreds of dollars.
Oh,
yeah.
Things like, do a lot of couples think, oh, I need a wedding favor of some kind. You don't really.
Yeah. Or there's different, unique
unique
ways to go about it.
Yes. They can be like multi-purpose. Like, maybe somehow your place card, if you're doing place cards, maybe that can somehow be something that has their name on it that they can take home.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like, because they'll get through us like photo booths or character artists and just use that as their wedding favor.
Right.
So it's multi-purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. Or photo booths, they get to take the photo home, or making choices that are like that wedding favor, people don't. There are certain things that I at least personally, if you are doing a wedding favor of any kind that just has like the couple's name and the date, whether it's a coaster or like a anything that somebody would take and put into their home, a lot of people are like, I don't really want somebody else's name on my coaster.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
These
just
are
make it
actually
generic.
These are actually wedding favors.
These are
those are
somebody
nice,
made.
though.
These are beautiful.
I think they're made from like tiles or something.
Yeah, those are super nice, dude.
But
These are nice.
Yeah, I ended up with some of those.
So because a lot of people, they don't realize that. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to throw our names on it. I'm like, some people, because of that, will not take them. And then you just wasted money.
I think so many times people do wedding favors, they stay on the table.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of them don't get taken. I always feel so bad. It's like, wow, that's a lot of wasted money.
I've seen
know.
people do flowers as like they'll use it, like I'll announce
kinda,
like,
that's
hey,
cool.
feel free to take the bouquet home or something, or like that's on the table.
Yeah,
I've seen people do some interesting things. I saw one person did books one time. I thought that
Oh,
was
really?
interesting.
Cool.
I haven't seen. Yeah, that was very interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of different options out there. I feel like those traditional wedding favors that maybe were popular a long time ago probably are not.
And people, I realize, tend to overbuy on those.
yes, they absolutely do. And kind of talking about things that are kind of outdated, I also like to make sure that, this is kind of aside from budget, but making sure that any of the traditions or things that you're incorporating are not antiquated. There's so many things that are outdated that people don't do anymore, that you don't need to do, that people just think, oh, okay, I need to do this. And it's like, no, you don't. A wedding can be anything that you want it to be, and I'm happy to help you with that.
Sometimes I felt that with the older people in their family are like, well, you that you do this and that, and like, sometimes those things are just not. I don't know. Bridal party dance was one that comes to mind real fast. I don't think that's very that
garter
common.
has become a little
Garter's
less.
going downhill. Yeah.
I'll do it if you want to, but my personal opinion is
Yeah. There's some things that are just kind of going, changing. So
like the money dance is another one.
That one's going away.
But sometimes they're important to people, and like once again, it's your day. I'm just gonna give you the best advice that I can. But then if there's like, because you went against something that I recommended, if there's like an adverse effect, if you're unhappy, if something goes wrong, you can't blame me because I tried.
Yeah. But then I think there's some unique like fun things that maybe are coming into play that are that aren't really old. I don't know. Just one off the top of my head is shoe game, something like that. Like that was that probably wasn't really a thing
that only
a long
came
time
out
ago.
like the last maybe 5 years or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I don't know,
I'd say
just different
so.
things like that. Yeah, I saw I don't know, something instead of doing like the money dance, they did something where like the bride and groom try to run around and collect as much money
Oh my
yeah.
gosh,
or
that's
whatever, and
The
then
dollar
like,
dash,
and
I
then
think that's what they call it.
yeah. So I don't know. There's different things. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different
Mhm.
trends and stuff, but
Yeah. And what's one of the toughest lessons you've learned in your
Oh.
wedding career?
So I would say this is like almost almost like a personal lesson that I'm still learning is that it typically has to do with the work life, balance.
Mm.
I So according to Forbes, wedding planning, event coordinating is the fifth most stressful job in the world.
Mm.
It's like there's oh gosh, I don't remember all of them, but firefighters up there, police officer, air traffic control. I think there's like military personnel. And then there's event coordinator
Yeah.
randomly out there
Yeah, I mean,
as
it
one of the
is.
most stressful jobs. And I get it. You
Mm.
are in charge of an absolutely huge day. So many people, so many
Yeah.
elements. There's at like average 5,000 details in a wedding.
Yeah.
And because of that, it can take up a lot of time. And so it has been a learning lesson to tell myself, okay, Rachel, you are still a great wedding planner if you take time off, if you take time to be with your family and your friends and yourself. It's okay not to think about weddings 24/7. It's okay
Yeah.
to just relax and, just like exercising, the rest days are just as important as the days that you're working out. So I try to remind myself, Rachel, you're going to be a better wedding planner if you take time off. If you take your weekends, you don't go to a coffee shop and be like, oh, I can do a couple more emails or whatever. So I'm still learning about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning how to be better about, using my work time for work time and then, play for
Yeah.
play. But
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest lesson.
That's a
right
tough one.
now.
That's a tough one, and,
Yeah.
and I couldn't imagine like in someone doing your thing because like I guess I don't know how the right way to phrase it, but like how like I'm sure they're gonna try to access you you're trying to be accessible to people. So and like how much access like I don't know. Do you like is it always practical for you to get back like right away, or there's times that you kind of try to shut off, or like
Yeah.
so that maybe like brides that are listening maybe know like too just like what to expect.
Sure. No, I definitely go over, when they've said, okay, we'd like to hire you. We set up the contract and everything. It's in my contract as well as in everybody's welcome packets that they get, my communication preferences. So I don't do any text messaging. I know a lot of planners that do text messaging, and I can't. I only allow text messaging the week of the wedding. That's when you
Okay.
can text me if it's a quick little thing. Like, okay, we're pulling the flower girl, she's not doing it. And okay, great. Perfect. Easy. So communication preferences, email. I have my different hours that I work. I have my hours that I use for meetings and tours and such. Those are only Tuesdays and Thursdays. I don't, unless we really have to, I do not
Yeah.
try to do things on days other than that. And so I make sure that they understand like that I do have boundaries.
Yeah.
But then that's the thing is I need to make sure I stick with them. I have to make sure that I do.
Yeah.
And I also talk about once again, welcome packet in the contract, how to be the ideal couple, the ideal client. And those are, and really it's not a lot. It's just communicate with me. Like if I send you an email, please try to get back to me as soon as you possibly can. I get it over the weekend. If you don't want to, that's okay. If it takes a couple days, that's fine. But if I'm like weeks upon weeks of not hearing from you, I can't really do my job, and that could have adverse effects on your wedding day. So communicate with me. Always just be kind and understand that like weddings are interesting like days. Like things can happen. You just need to trust that I am going to be able to take care of those days. So I just kind of talk about how, hey, I can only do my best job if you're helping me by communicating, being kind, courteous, and yeah. So
I really love that. I really love how you like kind of try to express those boundaries up front so they know what to expect up front. I think that's really
That's something
really
I've been trying to work on too, because you probably get to this point working with clients is that a lot of times husband works way different hours than the bride, and like in a lot of times I find my evenings are like the only time that like they're both available at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if do you find that do you work that into your like your schedule too?
So I make sure that for example, Mondays and Fridays are usually my typical 9 to 5. That's what I have. Tuesdays and Thursdays, because I do understand a lot of people are like, well, I'm only available in the evenings. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think my hours are usually from like either 2 or 3 to 9.
Okay.
And those are the days that I take meetings. Wednesdays kind of actually is so that I can have like a night to myself to go to the gym or go like hang out or like veg out on the couch, whatever I want to do. That's like a 9 to like 2 or 3. So it's definitely, it's not a 9 to 5, which I'm sure you also understand with like, it varies, but I tried to make it easy for them to still set up meetings and such, but also so that I have a life.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That's really smart. I really like that a lot.
Yeah, and I'm like kind of taking what I like this year. I've been kind of refining that as well for myself, and like going into next year, like planning all. I'm starting to reach out and kind of, some people that we just booked. I'm like, all right, I need to figure out that situation too, because especially like when we do like Friday weddings or sometimes Sunday weddings too, like trying to figure out like, all right, when during the week am I gonna like not just check out for a second, because you can't burn the candle at both ends.
Right.
No,
Just be a person and not a DJ. Can I just be a person instead of a wedding planner?
Yeah.
I totally get that. So that's definitely important.
Yeah. And I guess, do you have any other questions? I have one last one.
I think I'm good if you want to ask
Okay.
that, yeah.
So we always ask this, like, what if you could give a couple like one piece of advice that maybe they're listening and planning a wedding? What's one of your like, if you take anything away from this, here's the one piece of advice.
So I'm going to cheat. I have 2. I have one that's more like emotional, and then one that is more like practical facts. So the first one, on your wedding day, do not leave your partner's side. Do not do it. And here's why. Weddings are huge days where you're bringing like so many people that you love together to celebrate, and it's a day like none other, and you can kind of get swept up in it, and you're so excited because you're seeing all these people and all of these like fun like things are happening, everything's coming together. And I've heard from like some of my friends that are married or stuff like, oh gosh, like I feel like I barely got to spend time with you. Like we were running around doing different things. Like we ate together, we danced together, but I don't really remember a lot. Like, and that's kind of a bummer. You know what I mean? Because we're celebrating your love and your relationship. And so I would say, as some advice, stick by your partner. So if you're like, oh, hey, I'm going to go chat with my, music teacher who's here from like a million years ago, like, great, come with me. You're coming with me to chat with them, or I'm going to the bar to get a drink, or, whatever it might be. If you're going to the bathroom, go with them. I just wait outside the door, because you want to experience your wedding together. You want to look back and be like, oh my gosh, do you remember when this happened? Because I feel like some couples that I haven't worked with but were married previously are just like have total different like memories from their night. And I just think it's super special to.
I really like that piece of advice a lot.
Just
thinking of like
together.
Just seeing like, being behind the DJ booth, I'm just always watching what's going on. And so I do see that a lot is like, because I think when it's your wedding day, you're like, all right, we need to like divide and conquer, because we have to talk to every single person that we invited. And you don't have to. Like, you really don't have to.
It's almost
like,
defeating the point.
And like you have cousins that might follow you around the entire time and like want a million pictures on their phone with you, and like I think that's a good piece of advice.
Yeah, and it is really hard to explain to somebody that hasn't been married. Like before I got married, you always heard about it. Oh, the day flies by, and like you don't know. You always hear about it, but oh my gosh, that is crazy. I don't know how that works and like how it does that to your mind and memories
your
and
adrenaline's
stuff.
going.
But it is the real deal. That's really important advice. I like that.
Yeah. So stick together. Do not leave each other's sides. That's the first one. The next one is hire a wedding planner. At the very least, hire a wedding coordinator. So many different reasons why, but you want to enjoy your day. You've put so much money and time and effort into putting together this celebration, and you are not going to be able to be in charge of all of those things. A lot of people think like, oh yeah, I can handle it. I'm a very organized person. But on your wedding day, you're not. You're going to be taking photos. You're going to be, getting ready and, experiencing and enjoying your day. And, same thing with like your family members. Some people are like, oh, my sister's just going to be in charge, my mom. But you want them to enjoy the day too. You don't want them taking on, the role as planner or florist or DJ or other crazy things.
Yeah.
So that's a whole side thing. But you want them to also enjoy their day too, to enjoy your day. And so it just makes so much sense to have hire an outside person, a professional in the industry. And I stress, a professional, a certified wedding planner, because unfortunately there are a lot of, just like every other career, there are a lot of people out there that claim to be professionals that just aren't. And so finding somebody that is certified is also key. But so find somebody, because you really can't afford to not have one. You want to look back on your day with so many wonderful memories. You don't want to be stressed out. You want everything to go exactly as planned. And so having a professional in the industry take care of all of those tasks, and also make the whole pre-wedding day process go so smoothly so you can enjoy your engagement. It's just it is absolutely priceless. And I would be so honored to be able to help, couples, whoever you might be. I don't care who you are. I would love to help you and your partner just start this next amazing chapter in your lives. And there are so many other great professional certified wedding planners out there. You just need to find the one that's going to fit your needs most. And I can't stress enough that it's going to help in every aspect, from the vendors being able to do their jobs, you being able to enjoy your day, enjoy your engagement. You really cannot afford to not have a planner, or at least a month of coordinator.
I love that. And
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think leading off, what you just said, what is the best way for people to contact you, get a hold of you?
Absolutely, yes. So again, I am Rachel Irwin, Rachel Maria Ines Irwin, my full name. I am the owner and master certified wedding planner of With Love Wedding Planning. We are a Cleveland, Ohio-based wedding planning company. We serve all of Northeast Ohio as well as beyond for like destination weddings and out-of-state weddings. So you can contact me on my website. So that's going to be at withloveplanning.com. You can also do socials such as Instagram at withlove.planning. And what I would recommend, if you're interested, you're like, hey, I want to talk with Rachel. What I would do is I would either go to my website or my social media, check some stuff out, and then you'll notice that I have a lot of packages. I have full planning, partial, month of, micro wedding, mini wedding, design, setup, tear down. I have so many, and it can be kind of overwhelming to be like, oh my gosh, what do I need for my wedding day? And so what I did is I created a quiz, because I loved taking quizzes when I was younger. I loved it. And so I created a quiz that allows you it takes about 4 minutes. It asks you things about where you are in the process, what you're looking for as far as like day out, like services go. If you need like tear down help with setup, etc. And pretty much after you take that quiz, it'll tell you what is going to be the best package for you. Packages would be best for you. And then from there, we can kind of get started and contact each other. But it's just an easy way to understand, but depending on where you're at, how I can assist you. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you, and also vendors out there. If you want, I'm always open to like meeting new vendors, whatever kind of vendor you are. I'd love to like get a drink, get coffee, something like that, and just chat about the wedding, kind of like what we did today, just kind of chat. And I'd love to hear from you. I always love talking to other wedding professionals. So
that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on. This
thank
is cool.
you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was so insightful for all these, everyone listening, and just a lot of great information. So that's going to really help a lot of people.
I hope so. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Definitely. Well, all right. We will see you guys hopefully next week.
Hopefully, yeah.
We'll get some more people. But thank you again so much, Rachel. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And
You're
if you need a wedding planner, hire.
Yes.
All right. We will see you guys next time. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Wedding Workflow Podcast. Join us next Wednesday for another episode. And if you've enjoyed our show, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts to help us move up in the rankings. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Wed Workflow Pod. And you can find us on Facebook at The Wedding Workflow. Also, please send us an email with any questions or topics you'd like us to cover at theweddingworkflow@gmail.com. And we will see you next week.
I'm not, but I know a decent amount about, or a chunk